Hello, welcome back. I'll probably run out of time later, so knowing that this conversation is probably going to just eat up the rest of the 12 minutes. So I just wanted to say that tomorrow I have a band on called Grape Shot. Now, I'm told this band are really something special, so I hope you won't miss them. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Now we have Alf has joined us, who is Gwen's husband. So Alf, you received a famous phone call.
A famous phone call, yes.
How on earth did they tell you?
I find that difficult to remember even now. But Gwenny was away at Stansted Hall. She'd gone down there to perform for a week, singing. Whatever.
Right.
And it was late. It must have been 11:30 at night on the Saturday evening, and the call came and it said, is that such and such a number? I said yes. And I believe it was Alan Cleaver. I have to go back on this one. And he said, we've got some great happenings here in Leicester, and we've just had your son come through. And that's when I fell off the stool, I think.
I think I've joined you.
But, you know, I just, you can't comprehend that, A, at 11:30 at night, and B, after all those years.
So then you just go into a state of shock?
Yeah, it was all those years back. And it wasn't because we hadn't been doing anything. It just didn't come like, this is where you start. Gwenny had been doing it for 10 years almost.
Right.
Longer time, perhaps. And she had done all the donkey work. And here am I sitting on a stool down at Raleigh, and somebody's given me this wonderful news. So I took the message and I said, well, I'm sorry, Gwenny's not here at the moment, but I'll get hold of her tomorrow at Stansted and I'll tell her so. And I rang her and I asked her if she was sitting down, because I said, you know, can you imagine, Pat had already known about it, and Pat had never met me. And she said she was, and I said, well, you better hang on tight, love, because this is what's happened. Now, as I say, it wasn't because we knew nothing about it. We'd got so far in, but this was it. This was the ultimate. This was physical phenomenon.
Absolutely, yes.
So she sat down, and I left her in a blur, but she just bubbled, and I just said, oh, I can't talk to you anymore about this now, so go away and we'll talk tomorrow, which we did. And then I rang back to Leicester and said I'd spoken to Gwen, told her where she was, and they invited us up the following Saturday. So all the week Gwenny's now got to wait at Stansted.
Yeah, it must have been absolutely terrible. Oh, it was. But at least I suppose you knew that it had happened. At least you knew.
I was trying to perform and I was weeping at the same time.
I can imagine.
Great difficulty.
I can imagine. So, Alf, what happened when you got there?
We got there, I should think we must have broken every record in the book. We got there and here were meeting people that we hadn't seen before. We knew Alan Cleaver.
Vaguely, yes.
We'd spoken to Alan Cleaver, but the rest of the people had said, come in, this is our home, you come in. And Rita and Steve said, come in, and you're coming across to tonight with us, to Pat and Barry Jeffries, whom we'd never met. So they opened their doors and said, come in. And I'm there, and Gwenny's there, and we have no idea what's going to happen. We haven't had enough time to do. But it happened. It happened. By then, by the way, don't forget that these people had been doing it for some years, and they'd gone through all the donkey work.
Right, so they'd done all the, like you were saying, how long it took. And so you were able to just sort of walk in and
sailing there
straight into
the reality. We slid on the crest of a wave, didn't we? We didn't do any hard work.
And how did he appear? Was it sudden?
No.
Were you expecting him to come?
No, I suppose it was in a way, but first of all Helen would come through and sort of break the ice. And my memory serves me right, Pat was in charge of the music, the sound, and that had to be seen to be believed. I know Pat touched on it earlier on, but the timing was so phenomenal. I think if there was nothing else, that in itself would have given you the ultimate. But however, she would talk, and then she would say, I'm going to introduce to you. I think Michael came through first to break the ice. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. And then Russell came through.
And how do they appear?
Well, no,
as they were.
I mean, is it like, do they appear misty, or did they just suddenly appear? I mean, I think Michael said that it was a bit like Beat Me Up, Scotty. I think that's what Michael actually said.
Solid.
That they just They just suddenly, and do they appear standing up or do they appear next to you?
Whatever.
Sit down,
Can appear
sit down
on
beside
the,
us.
sit at the side of you or standing in front of you.
So it's like 1 minute there's nobody there,
Yeah.
and the next second,
It's like when you dance with
solid
Laura.
person.
Well, 1 minute the voice is there.
right?
They sort
voice
of,
comes
it's
through
a
first.
semi-beam up. They give you the voice first.
Mm.
And then there's a touching. But it's a planned touching. I think earlier on somebody mentioned the fact that you didn't touch right away. You couldn't. What happened was, if somebody sat down in a circle like Mike perhaps he did, and initially they were told that somebody was there, they wouldn't be able to touch. But before we got there, they were preparing it. Pat and Barry and Steve and Rita, they were preparing it because they were talking to these people. So that by the time we got there, they knew exactly what to do with us. And I think, again, my memory might blow me here, but I think he sat down beside me on the settee. That was the first. Well, you have no thoughts then.
And then
You-
he
you-
just made us laugh, because I was bawling my eyes out, of course. And then he started his antics, which made everybody laugh. And we laughed and cried at the same time. I mean, it was
Well, yes, it would be.
wondrous, really.
It would be something you crying with happiness, obviously.
Yeah.
I have to, oh sorry,
It's all
I
right.
have to tell you, when we asked Helen how she came, how they came to be there, you know, what did they have to do, and she said she didn't know. All they knew was that they were where they are, and they're here in our room. They didn't do anything.
And did they come because they particularly wanted to, or did they come because you were calling for them
No,
to come?
no,
Wanted to
only
come.
because they want to come. You cannot call
It's a
people
link
up.
of love, isn't it?
That's right. The only people that come back through the spirit world are people that want to come. There's no calling on them and saying, oh, please, you know, and this sort of thing.
Perhaps they put an ad in the paper or
Well,
something.
they might do, yes.
You have to wonder, don't you?
You do.
I mean,
Anything's
there must be a
possible.
way of them contacting people.
That's
Because there must be masses of people who would like to come
Oh,
through.
yes. Oh, yes. You do. I mean, this is the, you know, the awful part of it, really, because it's just, but then it isn't meant for everybody, I don't believe.
No, I
And you
think
have
so
to
too.
be, you know, sort of, well, not a certain kind of person, no, that's not right. But, you know, I don't believe it would be good for it to be freely known everywhere.
Do you not?
No, I think people might think, well, this is such a wonderful place. Let's get out of this, you know, and that,
Well, yeah, there is always that danger, isn't
and
there?
that isn't to be, you know. We have to live our lives here
That's a very
and-
good point.
and
Very
do,
good point.
you know, whatever we have to do here. That's why we're here,
Mm.
and we can't. And so, you know, you have to be careful.
Mm.
And, you know, I know Mike is very keen, and yes, we all are very, very keen for it to be on camera and that sort of thing. But that's only if the spirit world will allow it.
Yes, I dare say that there will be safeguards put in. I mean,
That's
you wouldn't
right.
want mass suicides going on because
No.
people saying, I want to go and be with them. 'cause
That's
it's
right.
better than
Somebody
what we've got
just, I
here.
mean, I've not long ago lost my husband. Well, not lost him because I know where he is, you know. Well, I hope I know where
that
he
must
is.
be that must be a
And-
huge comfort.
And I mean, when you first start bereaved, and especially when, you know, you lose your husband, you just want to be together still. And so if you were in that way inclined, you know, so anyway, you know, it's not, I don't know, it's a,
There's been talk, hasn't there, about bringing Princess Diana back. You'd like to meet her, I bet, wouldn't you, Alf?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that you say bringing her back. I think Pat's already touched on that. Diana won't come back unless Diana's ready, or they're
Right.
ready to let Diana come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as basic
But
as that.
we feel she might want to because she did talk
She
about this
she
kind
was that
thing
sort of
all the
person,
time.
and she made such an impact anyway while she was on this earth that she has got an awful lot more. People still look upon her as a saint anyway. So many
They
people
do, especially Americans.
Yeah.
So,
But, you know, to say that she'll come back, only if they're ready.
Have they suggested that she might?
I'm not sure about that because there are so many people and so many stories people have said we have communicated
right.
with.
Exactly.
Well, you've got to take a lot of these with a pinch of salt. I'm not suggesting for one moment that everybody's making it up, but there is a tendency to go over the top when something like this
Well,
happens.
this is the whole point, isn't it? Why you need actual
Yeah, you
laboratory
need-
experiments,
yeah.
because there are going to be people out there who say you're making it up or
That's
you've been
right.
fooled. No matter what you say,
Exactly.
there are going to be
Yes.
people who do
I mean,
that.
when we were doing our work, lots, and I mean lots, of famous so-called people came to us, talked to us, but we would never go out and say about these people because we had no means of checking that they
Right.
were who they said they were. And nobody came through us or through our seances or experiments that we wrote about or talked about, only if they were checked by
Yeah,
us.
you have to be very careful, don't you, to
That's
keep
right.
it all above board and respectable so that you
That's
don't
right.
get mixed up with the people who are fooling
Right.
people.
That's
because there
right.
unfortunately are a lot of them out there, aren't there?
'Cause it
Well,
is very
sorry.
important.
But
Please.
thank you ever so much for coming and sharing your story with us. It's been really nice of you. I know you've come a long way. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
And I hope you
pleasure.
enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.